All right, we have another spot coloring type of situation going on here. We're gonna, I don't know, focus it around the girl on the swing. I want to do another one of these little sunsetty things while I'm kind of on that. Oh, I don't know, theme maybe. So we have all of this, and this is all going to be grayscale in here. Sedge filler reads large, and this pathway right here from the new sets. And let's see here. I'm going to utilize some black ink. I'm going to do it on a cotton ball. I usually don't do that because it's just way too soft for this, but I want just a little bit of a kind of vignette up here, and it's going to be fairly light, lightly applied, I guess I should say. And we're going to try a cotton ball here. That's going on pretty light and soft, and that's kind of what we're going after right here. We have a very narrow piece here. I think it's 4 inches by 10, I believe. So real kind of, not quite bookmark it, the bookmark, it's like way too thick for that, but, they call them slimline these days. Definitely a slimline piece. Very, very narrow and elongated, which I really love the look of that. Kind of these exaggerated, ratios. But I really love the girl on the swing in these longer pieces. Just from the nature of the swing, it seems to really kind of go along with that sort of theme of just the form of a swing, hanging swing. All right, so let's see. We have that. I needed to cap it off a little bit up top like that. That's not really that. I haven't used a cotton ball before. That's not really very smooth. That's not really transitioned very well up there, is it? I'm better with a, I don't know, paper towel, I guess. I wanted to try the cotton ball here, though. Let's try it in a little swirly type of motion. And it just kind of caps things off, reasonably well, I guess. And we'll add a little bit more of this down here. This is just going to give me a little bit of a head start on the toning in this lower portion. This is the reason why I don't use this, is because there isn't very much ink that gets applied at any given moment. I can go much faster with a more absorbent material, so I typically use, things like paper towels or, a sponge. But because this is going to be monochromatic and there's not very much coloring on here, I just wanted to go a little bit kind of softer, I guess. So let's go with something like that. Now, the rest of it I'm going to do with a black colored pencil, and then we'll see if I need anything else. And with black colored pencil, let's see, I don't want to go in with too sharp of a colored pencil. And I'm using it very, very lightly here, okay? going into it, kind of creating different dimensions here with this kind of slope here, a little bit darker than this one up here. And what I'll do is I'll cap off this with a little bit more of a horizon darkness to separate it from sky. And right down here, I'm darkening the textures created by the sedge filler. So in these little textures here that I find in here, I'm just kind of enhancing them a little bit more with a little bit more tone to give it more depth and kind of, well, shadow forms and darker value. And I'm doing this too. I'm kind of darkening some areas in here, which will bring more attention up into the areas that I want to direct the viewer's eye. So we have this lighter area up top here. This path here leads right to our girl. And then she's hanging here, and then we're going to put that little sun right in this area. Okay, let's see if I can't get this a little bit smoothed out right here. I don't know. Even this pencil here isn't sharp, but I should probably use something like a one of those colored pencil sticks or something like that and use it on its side. That would be a good way to go. Conte crayon would be okay. On these steps here, kind of darken the outside area, but leave kind of this center area illuminated. Okay, when I say darken, I don't mean make it like super dark or anything like that, but just kind of give it a little bit more tone around the perimeter. So it's like the edges of this are kind of a little bit darker, and we have this illumination on the interior like this. So we're doing that same type of thing in these areas like this right in here. I mean, you can say that this area in the distance is kind of darker on the perimeter like that, and same thing with this. So you're just kind of doing these lighter to darker, lighter to darker, lighter to darker types of whatever, tonal situations, okay, tonal arrangements. And each one, it's just so that there isn't just kind of this overall light and dark, like one thing going on. I mean, you can do it everywhere. You can, if she wasn't like a silhouette, you can kind of make, part of the dress a little bit darker and part of it lighter. So you have all these like changes of value taking place from, the macro to the micro within the space. And when you have variation like that, it can lead to, potentially a richer surface because you have these variations like that. You have variety going on. There's a little bit of gray here. This is a watercolor pencil. I won't be adding water to it, you know, making it using the water soluble aspect of it though. I'll just use it as a like a gray colored pencil. And I'm going in here and I don't, you probably can't see any difference, but it's adding a little bit of a, kind of varied, kind of a little bit richer tone to it. I mean, it's still monochromatic grayscale, but, you know, this gray in here, it's kind of nice. I can get a little bit more subtle, I think, with it. Subtle in terms of achieving a grayscale just by using gray, okay. Okay. Now, let's go in and add in some little colorful, not colorful, lighter textures. I'm so used to doing things in color. But let's add this in. I want to add some sparkle to this. I mean, it's not going to be like shiny or anything like that. It'd be easier to kind of represent that in color, but like right now it's looking a little bit kind of ominous, in some ways, just being in kind of darker forms like that. So I'm going to put some of this back in there and add in that kind of, yeah, kind of like sparklier element into it, lighting, you know, just to say that this is, you know, kind of a, you know, like a black and white type of photograph or something like that, you know. And not something like that's meant to be, you know, it's supposed to represent something that's really dark. So put this little shimmer kind of back into it like this. Add some little highlights to my rocks in here, on the tops of my rocks, I should say. So, I don't know. I mean, it could be little highlights in here, but that could be things like, you know, like a carpet of white flowers or something like that as well. Let's do something as like this too. Let's put some little dots up here on our tree. Maybe this is, it could be things like spring blossoms or something like that. It doesn't really show up a whole lot because this is texture up here and it's not solid. But again, you know, it's a little bit of that same similar texture that we see down below. So it could look like just like a old kind of black and white photograph or something of that sort. Okay, quite textural. And there. A little bit too textural, but we're going to add in some softer textures to kind of mellow that out. All right, so we have all that paint in there. That dries and absorbs into our surface pretty fast, but we'll add some, or heat set it. Might not be completely dry, but dry enough, I believe. And let's get to our sun. Let's put it fairly low. I want this girl to be kind of really enjoying her sunset view here. I'll add that with a paper towel. I probably added a little bit more, too much red yesterday in my piece. I kind of flattened this out so the texture won't be in there. Just dye-based inks here. Okay. And this is a 1-inch hole punch. Make sure you don't go above this area up here and get some, color up there, or I'll try not to. When I say that, sometimes it's like, oh, when I'm trying to give instruction, okay, be careful not to do this. It's like, I did it, Some orange. And let me use a much smaller amount of this red this time. I'll just put a little bit in the corner like this. I'll wipe some of it off too. I'll try to apply kind of a smaller amount here than I did yesterday. I'm going for that split fountain look where it's kind of transitioning, in this case, from red up top to orange and yellow down below. It's really easy to go down too far with the darkest color, and it really kind of spreads in there. So I'll go slower this time. I won't drag it down so fast. All right. That, and let's take a look. There we have that, like so. And let's try some of our white pigment ink. Maybe I should, I don't plan on putting any white pigment ink around that, but let's heat set it just in case, because if I go over that with white pigment ink, it's going to drag that color around. Maybe not completely dry again, but dry enough. I could see it like dry, you know, that sheen disappear. White pigment ink. I'm going to try to smooth some of this out up here. Let's see, let's get rid of this black on here, because I might pick up some of that if I'm not careful. I've got a couple little textures up here that I'm going to try to eradicate or kind of subdue. And then I'll add some of this into my tree limbs as well. We'll make some of these branches a little bit softer, grayer, so that there's a little bit more variation in them. So it's like when I put some over that branch right there, it kind of pushes it back a little, saying that this branch here is a little bit closer. And you see that there's a little bit more variation up there, like that. And then what we'll do is we'll create a little bit more of a variation down below. Okay, let's get a little bit of a mask going here so that I can kind of cover this up, and I'll have this mist kind of coming up from behind this grassy slope, like that. I don't know, you know, it doesn't make a huge difference because that background slope isn't very dark, so you can't see it too much. And see this area up here where I have it a little bit lighter because I put the darker pencil like that. What I'll do is I'll go in and just kind of reiterate that whole idea of that being a little bit lighter and that being a little bit darker over there, like so. And then here we'll add in some of this lighting, texture, softening in some of these areas right in here. And, you know, some areas get a little bit harsh when I'm coloring, and this kind of just, it remedies a lot of the kind of rougher kind of applications. I don't know, it's not even a bad application. I guess it refines it a little bit more. See this a little bit, that rock's a little bit more gray, this one over here. So it just kind of makes this kind of like a softer kind of entry point into the scene. Let's add some down here. So it's like kind of illuminating our way a little bit. And again, it's just kind of a softer kind of look right in here. So here's a little bit softer, here's a little bit sharper, like that. I'll do it on the top and bottom a little bit. So that's a little bit lighter up there, like that. So this whole kind of pathway here, it just has a kind of a softer, and like I said, it's like a more inviting light right in there. There we go, like that. And let's see about maybe a quote stamp up here. We'll get this matted off and formatted into a card. I go with the gold kind of border on something like this. I think it matches really well with the warm sun. And that should do it, I think. But we'll look for a quote right up here. I figured with all these trees and things, I thought I'm making this a shorter piece or like a quarter-page card, but then I thought, maybe we'll go with some sort of word stamp if it looks good in there. All right, so we'll figure that out. All right, we have our finished card here. I think I found a decent quote for this one. And again, we've kind of framed this on this gold and, I don't know, kind of thin, like gold inlay type of look for this piece right here. But be content with what you have. Rejoice in the way things are. When you realize there is nothing lacking, the whole world belongs to you. And I don't know, it just seems to fit the spirit of this piece really well. I'd rather have it be an elongated quote, but I don't have too many of those ones. They're kind of, horizontal, but I don't know. The words are pretty good. And I don't know, I didn't like all those trees up there, so that kind of covering up some of it, I think that looks pretty decent. You can counterbalance with like another word stamp, like right in here somewhere. It'd be kind of interesting. I don't know. I don't know what I would do. I have like the word peace or something like that that would go with that, but I think this looks pretty decent. But another kind of spot coloring type of thing. We'll get into some figures where, like, the figure is wearing like a red dress or something like that. I have some of those new people, a la the pictorialist types of characters that I want to put into a scene, and then they have the color in them, but otherwise grayscale all around. But I think it makes for a pretty dramatic presentation when you have kind of that minimal color type of thing. I was thinking about some things too where this could all be grayscale, and I just have some of those glow-in-the-dark things like lanterns or something like that in here. So everything's grayscale. You flip off the lights, and you get that green glowing color, which might be kind of cool. The moon would be interesting like that too. But I've already done a card really similar to that type of spirit. It's more colorful, and it's not grayscale plus the moon, but that can be done as well if you have any of that glow-in-the-dark printable vinyl that you want to utilize in a scene, and that's really fun. All right, anyways, hope you liked the card. Thanks for watching. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Stampscapes channel.